Hello everyone! In this video, we focus on active listening as an essential communication skill in close relationships. Active listening has been widely examined in psychology because of its role in improving communication quality, emotional understanding, and relationship satisfaction. Now, we will first explain what active listening is, why active listening matters, and why is it different from ordinary listening.
Active listening refers to a communication process in which the listener is fully engaged with the speaker, not only hearing the words, but also trying to understand the emotions, intentions, and meaning behind the message. Unlike passive listening, active listening requires conscious effort, attention, and responsiveness. The listener demonstrates understanding through verbal and nonverbal cues, such as maintaining the eye contact, asking clarifying questions, and reflecting the speaker's message and paraphrasing. In psychological literature, active listening is often described as a skill that involves empathy, awareness, and emotional validation. While passive listening is mainly about receiving information, active listening is about building understanding.
Passive listeners may hear the message but remain emotionally distant, whereas active listeners are mentally and emotionally present in the interaction. In active listening, the listener does not interrupt, judge, or immediately offer solutions, so the goal is not to immediately solve the problem or give advice. Instead, the listener shows understanding by reflecting, clarifying, and validating what the speaker is expressing. This process helps the speaker feel heard and understood, respected, and emotionally supported.
So, why active listening matters?
Why active listening matters? Because active listening is especially important in close relationships, because many communication problems arise not from the issues itself, but from feeling misunderstood or emotionally ignored. By allowing individuals to feel heard and acknowledged, active listening helps create a sense of emotional safety within the relationships. When individuals feel genuinely listened to, they are more likely to regulate their emotions, communicate more openly, and maintain trust, particularly during moments of disagreement or vulnerability. In this way, active listening supports constructive communication rather than escalation of conflict. Research in relationship psychology constantly shows that active listening strengthens emotional bonds and reduces defensive reactions during relational interactions. For this reason, active listening is considered a fundamental skill for sustaining healthy interactions.
Okay, we have mentioned what is active listening is and why does it matter. So what are the researchers say about listening in real life? Let's talk about this. There are beneficial articles about this topic named Relative Effectiveness of Active Listening in Initial Interactions from Harry Weger Jr. and his crew. Power of Listening by Rebecca Kuntel. Our friend Zella will summarize the contents of this research.
Today I want to talk about two studies and they both show one simple truth. Listening is a powerful tool in relationships. The first study looked at 365 couples talking about stressful experience. When partners listened attentively with eye contact, small verbal cues and open-ended questions, people felt more supported, they coped better together and their relationship satisfaction was higher. It even reduced those badly timed, unhelpful pieces of advice we sometimes give.
To build on what we just saw, the research by Kuhn and colleagues in 2018 is based on a large-scale observational study of 365 couples who were just asked to discuss stressful personal experiences while their partners responded naturally. As highlighted in the video, the study shows that attentive listening is associated with greater perceived support, more effective dyadic coping, and higher relationship satisfaction. Importantly, the researchers used micro-level behavior coding, analyzing conversations in 10-second intervals. This allowed them to show that intensive listening closely tracks the partner's stress, expression, and predicts less problem-oriented and less negative coping. such as premature advice giving. Key behavioral elements. The research identifies 3 core pillars of active listening that we should practice. First one is back-channeling, using brief verbal cues like or yeah to show we are following the conversation. Like paraphrasing, summarizing the partner's message without judgment to ensure understanding. And open questions, encouraging the partner to elaborate further on their feelings.
The study also distinguishes between good and bad listeners. Good listeners remain synchronized with their partner's stress, while poor listeners tend to interrupt the process by offering solutions too early, often because they feel overwhelmed by the stress themselves. The bottom line, ultimately, Kuhn et al. Demonstrate that listening attentively during moments of self-disclosure is the key of sustaining intimacy. Here are another more high-impact finding from research is gender difference in listening beyond the basics. Kuhn revealed some fascinating nuances. For example, while women generally listen more closely, the study warns against problem solving too early. Partners who jump straight to advice often do so because they are overwhelmed by the stress.
Overall, this study demonstrates that active listening is not just a supportive behavior, but a time-sensitive relational skill helps a partner accurately understand each other's needs and strengthens their dining, coping, and intimacy in close relationship. The following video is based on Weger's research in 2014, an experimental study that examines effectiveness of active listening during initial interactions with strangers and its impact on perceived understanding, conversational satisfaction, and social attractiveness.
The second study focused on Stranger Things for the first time, and again, active listening, preferring asking questions, showing real engagement. Made people feel more understood and more satisfied with the conversations, and it even made the listener seem more socially attractive. So the message is clear: listening isn't passive. Whether you are with a romantic partner or meeting someone new, attentive listening builds trust, closeness, and better communications.
To build on this video, this research by Weger and colleagues in 2014 is based on controlled experimental study with 115 participants focusing on first-time interactions between strangers. As highlighted in the video, active listening behaviors such as paraphrasing, asking questions, and showing engagements made participants feel more understood, more satisfied with the conversation, and led them to perceive the listener as more socially attractive. Research tells us that initial interactions are more critical because they shape all future interactions. They act as a gatekeeper, often determining whether the relationship will even continue. The results of the research show that active listening produced significantly higher feelings of being understood compared to both advice and minimal responses. According to Buddy and colleagues' research, links these perceptions to specific actionable behaviors like verbal paraphrasing. By restating what you have heard, you demonstrate high levels of attentiveness and responsiveness, like asking questions. This is our primary tool for conversation management and showing active interest. Nonverbal cues. Maintaining the eye contact and professional composure are scientifically linked to being perceived as friendly and socially secure.
Let's explore the comparative advantages of active listening. While we often think of listening as a passive act, the research suggests it's a high-level skill that provides distinct advantages in crisis, conflict, and professional training. Advantages in conflict and crisis in the realm of personal relationships. Resnick, Roloff, and Miller in 2012 found that active listening is a primary driver for relationship stability. It doesn't just help solve problems, it reduces the intrusive thoughts that often sabotage couples during arguments. In business life, according to research, Amber Rose in 1991 proved that success of the relationship between real estate agents and the clients depends heavily on these active listening skills. On the other side, according to research of Ilibov and Doty at 1976 found that in telephone crisis scenarios, counselors who gave advice were actually rated as more likable and helpful than those who only used active listening. The comparative advantage of active listening lies in its ability to build long-term trust and resolve deep-seated conflict.
Overall, this study suggests that active listening is not a limited close relationship. Even in the first-time interactions, it functions as a powerful communicative skill that shapes impressions, builds trust, lays the groundwork for future relational developments. In the next section, we will watch a short video summarizing findings of Kamamatchi, a neuroscientific study that examines how perceiving active listening influences brain activity, emotional evaluation, and social perception.
The study showed how active listening activates the reward system in the brain. When a person feels listening to interest, rhythm, and emotional evaluation regions become active. Furthermore, active listeners are perceived as more trustworthy and positive. In short, being listening to create both a neurobiology rewarding and socially strengthening effect.
In the experiment, participants talked about personal experiences while receiving either active listening responses or natural responses. By comparing neural activity across the conditions, the researchers found increased activation in the ventral striatum, a brain region associated with reward processing, when participants felt actively listened to. Beyond reward-related activation, the study also reported increased activity in regions linked to emotional evaluation and social understanding, suggesting that active listening shapes how individuals interpret both the interaction and the listener's intentions. These findings are based on brain imaging data rather than self-report alone, which strengthens the scientific validity of the results. In addition to neural data, the research analyzed participants' language use and found that experiences shared under active listening conditions were later described using fewer negative emotional words. This indicates that active listening may support emotional regulation by influencing how experiences are processed and remembered.
Overall, this study shows that active listening is not only socially meaningful, but also neurobiologically and behaviorally measurable. It highlights active listening as a mechanism that strengthens emotional connection, reduces negative emotional expression, and contributes to healthy communication in close relationships. The following article is on Limay, a review study that examines how high-quality listening functions as a key mechanism in forming and maintaining communal relationships.
This article highlights that listening is essential for building and maintaining communal relationships. People listen well because they care about other well-being and want to be valued as partners. High-quality listening increases trust, closeness, and relationship satisfaction overall. Listening is a key social mechanism that strengthens bonds.
As mentioned in the video, the authors emphasize that people engage in high-quality listening because they care about others' well-being and want to be perceived as valuable relationship partners. This motivation is central to communal relationships, such as friendships, family ties, and romantic relationships. Importantly, the review draws on experience sampling studies and experimental research, showing that people listen more attentively to close partners when they feel responsible for their partner's welfare, even when listening involves emotional discomfort. The authors also highlighting that high-quality listening serves as a signal of pro-social motivation, increasing perception of the trust, responsiveness, and relational value. The conclusions are supported by studies demonstrating that good listeners are constantly evaluated as more trustworthy and relationally valuable by both speakers and observers.
Overall, this article suggests that active listening is not only a communication skill, but a strategic relational behavior that helps build closeness, reinforce mutual care, and sustain healthy and close relationships over time. In conclusion, the research we discussed throughout the video shows that active listening is not a passive behavior, but a powerful relationship skill that's supported by scientific evidence. Across different contexts, from relationship to first time interactions. Active listening consistently enhances emotional understanding, trust, and relationship quality. Thank you for watching our presentation. We hope this discussion helped with the highlight importance of the active listening from relationship psychology perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you.